Hey, happy Friday. Finally Friday. Thanks for joining us throughout the entire work week as we've had storm just day after day after day here across the U.S. Now, today, tomorrow, Sunday is no exception. We have another round of storms coming, mainly for the northern side of the U.S., but then as we head into the end of the weekend, that risk shifts down to the south. So we do have a severe weather outbreak for today. The the northern plains to the Great Lakes, there you go. And then storm risks stretch to the south on Sunday. So let's show you, visualize where those storm risks are. We've got that northern risk today. We're expecting a severe weather outbreak today. We've got another risk for some high wind down anywhere from northwestern Kansas into New Mexico and Colorado today. By tomorrow, this shifts out to the Great Lakes and the northern plains, and even portions of the East Coast could see that tornado risk and wind risk tomorrow. And then by Sunday, it's really a plains show where we have anywhere from Minnesota all the way down to Texas in the risk for severe weather at the end of your weekend. So let's go ahead and get started with your questions and your comments today. Let me know if you have any comments or questions in the chat. Looks like you can hear me all right as well. So let's go ahead and get started with what we saw yesterday. Now, yesterday, it turned out very, very similar to what we expected. A total wind event on the East Coast and then a hail event in the northern plains. Actually, take a look at all of these wind reports that we got throughout the East Coast yesterday. Over 500 wind reports that we got from down power lines, down trees, and then just high wind that was blowing across the East Coast. Actually, these storms hit Washington, D.C. by about rush hour yesterday evening. And let's actually take a picture of those storms moving into Washington, D.C. So this is from the monument, the highest point in D.C. Over 500,000 people were left without power after these storms came through the East Coast yesterday. It backed up roadways, it caused crashes during the evening commute. Meanwhile, you go farther up to the northern plains and you see all of these hail reports from yesterday. I think we got some pretty decent reports just outside of Minneapolis on the east side of St. Paul there. We got some pretty decent hail reports, a few tornado reports as well yesterday across North and South Dakota. But really this shaped up to be exactly what we expected in our forecast yesterday. So let's see if we can do it again. Do you think we can do it again with a great forecast for today? I see a lot of people hopping on here, so comment where you're watching from today. Right now, if we kind of zoom out and see, okay, where's the rain right now? We've got a few severe thunderstorm warnings across, what is this right here? Wyoming. What does this say? Let's get some info on this. A high wind warning. I was about to say, I didn't think that there was any rain over here. Okay, so we have a high wind warning right now across Wyoming, Highway 80, with that high wind warning until Saturday morning. So we've got lots of wind across this area. Let's keep going on here. We've got a few showers out there as well. You can see where all of those showers are lining up right along a warm front here that goes through St. Louis all the way to Atlanta. And then we've got a warm front farther up to the north as well. And that's going to help to not only break records for heat and humidity today, but also initiate those storms in the northern plains later on this afternoon, really helping with that hail risk and that tornado risk today. So let's go ahead and break down some of the risks. You can see that it's warm, 80s and 90s this afternoon, or 80s and 90s right now, and then we get even warmer this afternoon. Here's a look at your hail risk today. Now, oftentimes we talk about look for those deeper oranges and maybe even some of those reds for the largest hail sizes. Today, ready for this? Not only just orange, but pink kind of gets thrown in there. Pinks and purples get thrown in there as well, signifying that we are expecting some really large hailstones right along the North Dakota and South Dakota state lines. So on the southern side of North Dakota is where we're expecting the largest hailstones. It's pretty rare to get these colors mixed into this graphic here, so let's go through this one more time. Again, these storms come in later on this evening and into the overnight hours, so we could have some nocturnal tornadoes with this as well. Speaking of tornadoes, let's break down your hazards risk by risk here. Let's start with hail, then we'll go to wind, and then we'll break down that tornado risk here. For your largest hail size today, pretty isolated, but I do think that we'll get baseball size hail, 2.75 inches. Oh my goodness, that is a massive hailstone. Now, other times, you kind of know the drill here. Most of those hailstones will be golf ball, maybe hen egg, maybe even smaller like ping pong and quarter size hail. But every now and then you'll get that baseball size hailstone mixed in here. Where are we expecting that at? Well, let's start to the west first and then I'll track our way to the east. So if we look off into Montana, your max hail size out here will most likely be the size of a ping pong ball. I'm not expecting to go anything larger than a golf ball out here. Really, that larger hailstones, that's where we're going to see it in North Dakota and maybe even portions of northern South Dakota and then portions of Minnesota. Fargo will probably be the best city to go to see large hail today. I think that's where we're going to see the largest hailstones. If you go a little bit farther to the east, I think the tornado risk intensifies over here in Minnesota. And those hailstones, they stay pretty large, up to the size of a golf ball as you go farther to the east. You get into Michigan, I think those hailstones, especially on the east side of Michigan, are going to stay pretty small. Now let's take a look at Montana for your wind risk today. We have that in a level 2 on a scale of 5. Level 2 in Minot as well. Fargo, once again, I have pinpointed this as a great place for storms to happen today. I think that we're going to have several rounds of storms in this area, mainly evening and overnight hours. So you're going to get every single risk for storms, not only that hail, but also the wind, the flooding, and the tornado risk today. Continuing farther off to the east, Duluth, we have in the high risk for high wind today as well. And we're even adding some of our plains states on here as well. So while we're not expecting large hail in this area, we're not expecting that tornado risk, but storms that fire up in this area could have some high winds associated with it. So we're talking about McCook all the way to Pueblo and Santa Fe with some of those high winds, about 60, 65, maybe 70 miles an hour today. Now here's your tornado forecast. And yes, we do have some of those red areas that signify multiple tornadoes, not just isolated, but we could have multiple tornadoes signifying a potential tornado outbreak in this area in North Dakota and then into portions of northwestern Minnesota. We are also watching for strong tornadoes. So you see that little hatched line right there, those black lines, that signifies strong tornadoes, so EF3 or greater in these areas. And before I move on from our severe weather outbreaks, I want to make sure that we get to some of your questions. So we have the first question right here, the first comment, thanks for commenting here. Big Sky Country, yes, Big Sky Country. We say big hail for Big Sky Country. Thanks for joining us today. A lot of people have their eye on this area for not only that hail risk, but also that tornado risk today. Make sure that you have multiple ways to get your weather alerts today. Stay prepared. Now is the time to make sure that you have any of your weather apps downloaded. We, of course, will be tracking these storms here at Hail Trace as well. We were just talking about how a lot of us will be watching these storms. Even though it's Friday night, we have meteorologists staffed 24/7 here at Hail Trace. Alrighty, moving on here. We talked about what to expect tonight, hail, wind, flooding, and tornadoes, but when are we expecting that? I told you multiple rounds here, so we're going to start off pretty isolated late this afternoon and into the evening hours. So we're talking about 6, 7, 8 o'clock. We're going to start to see a few isolated storms out in Montana, tracking into North Dakota. These are some of those to watch for the largest hailstones, especially whenever they're this isolated, they're moving slow, they can organize pretty well, and then they can produce those larger hailstones. Slowly but surely, these storms start to evolve into more of a widespread coverage type of event. So we start to see more numerous storms on the map here, covering a wider area. This is where I'm watching for some of those tornadoes embedded in this long line of storms, and then we could even get some of those tornadoes and some of these supercells back into North Dakota. So this area right here, remember that red with those black hashed lines? This is where we're expecting those strong tornadoes. Now, one thing I want to point out from this map is look at the timing of this. 12:30 this morning. Yes, we're talking about nocturnal tornadoes here. Wrapped up in this rain, that would be very, very difficult to see those tornadoes. So again, make sure that you have multiple ways to get your weather alerts. As we head into the afternoon hours, I mentioned that wind risk farther down to the south, including Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, and New Mexico. You can see those storms popping up here. They don't look as intimidating as what they do up in North Dakota. The only risk that we're watching for primarily here will be that wind risk. Alrighty, moving on here. Let's move on to Saturday. So we talked about Friday. Let's move on to Saturday because that risk for Saturday stays again up to the north. We're talking about our New England states here, the Great Lakes states, and then the Northern Plains states as well. By Sunday, though, however, we see that risk stretch down to the south, now including places like Nebraska. Where are my Omaha people at? Where's Colin today? Colin always asks about Omaha and Des Moines. Well, you're in for it for Sunday. You have a marginal risk. Colin, I see your comment popping up right there. I love that we've gotten to know each other, that you're always watching for Omaha and Des Moines here. But yes, I want to talk about Sunday here real quick, and then maybe we can get into some of those weekdays next week as well. Sundays, yes, we are expecting the storms to track all the way down and stretch into Kansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Texas as well. We even have a marginal risk out in our New England states. So Sunday is another day to keep your eye on. Temperatures for the weekend, probably a bit warmer than what you would normally expect for this time of the year. If you can, if it's not raining in your area, so places like Oklahoma, Kansas, most of our Gulf states, and then our Missouri Valley as well, get outside, enjoy the pool. It's going to be a very, very hot weekend. Holy moly, we're well above average through most of the northern portion of the U.S. Meanwhile, farther back to the west, temperatures are cooling down. Not only are we warm this weekend, but we have that humidity. These are your dew points coming up from the Gulf, bringing in a lot of moisture in this area. And these dew points signify humid conditions. You know that sticky feeling whenever you walk out, even in the morning hours? You're like, oh, I know it's going to be a hot day. That's what we're expecting as we head into the weekend. And not only this weekend, but most likely next weekend as well. The last weekend of June looks pretty hot for us, especially out to the east. What we're expecting here are above average temperatures for June 25th through the 29th. Temperatures are likely to be warmer than what you would normally see this time of the year. And then into the rest of the summer, June and July and August, we're expecting temperatures to be above average. What other questions do we have on here today? Corey says, I'm from central Minnesota. Yeah, you guys have a pretty decent risk for storms today. I can pull up that map once again. Hang on one second. Central Minnesota, so we're talking about, depends on if you're like on the north side or the south side. Central Minnesota is just kind of right in the middle of that, or right on the edge of that risk there. But you've got a risk for storms not only today, but also tomorrow. So here's today's risk, here's tomorrow's risk. And then a better risk on Sunday. It's a stormy weekend. You gotta stay weather aware this weekend. Any other questions today? And I see we have some questions about early next week, Monday and Tuesday. I don't have those graphics prepared right now, but what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll look at the forecast and then I'll comment on your Facebook comment right here, and I'll reply to that after this forecast ends. And I think those are all of our questions today. So thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you guys hopping on here. We do a weekday noon forecast every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And sometimes if the weather is intense enough, if we have a severe forecast on the weekends, we'll even do a special forecast on the weekends. So you guys put your comments in there. Would you like a forecast on Saturday or Sunday? Let us know. If you are watching the weather like we are, we'll hop on, we'll do a forecast through the weekend as well. So let us know. Other than that, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We post weather photos and videos and updates, forecast updates on all of these platforms. We actually just posted yesterday all of those Washington storms, a really, really impressive time lapse from those storms yesterday. And we also posted about the Jacksonville, Illinois tornado. We've got another video going out about that today. And give us a call if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map. Give us a call at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. Head over to our website, hailtrace.com, for more information on all of those hail, tornado, and wind maps. We have meteorologists staffed 24/7 mapping storms for you. Alrighty, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and I'll see you back here same time, same place on Monday.